He's dumb. All right, ladies and gents, what's going on? We are back again for episode number 7, I believe this is, of the Tight Splice Charters podcast. I believe the episode I just did with Matt was number 6. And I just want to start off by saying thank you, everyone who tuned into that episode and left, positive comments in the comment section. He will, without a doubt, definitely be what I would consider like a repeat guest on this deal. One, because he's one of my close friends, but besides that, he's just, again, he was kind of, first of all, he was very sluggish and slow in that one just because he's just got off the water fishing all day. And two, I think he was a little bit like microphone shy, but he is not only one of the best bass anglers I know, and like I said, he's one of my good friends, but he is one of the most entertaining people to hang out or fish with or just talk bass fishing with because he's a trip. He's super funny. He can imitate any bass angler alive to a T. And he's also just like a bass nerd. Like most people, you can ask him who won the 2013 Bassmasters Classic. Matt's the kind of person you can ask who got third, what type of lure or jig were they throwing, and what knot were they tying on what pound line, and where on the lake were they fishing, and he can tell you. I mean, he's just completely, all in on the bass fishing deal and just the Bassmasters and the Elite Series and the FLW tours and knows the history of the sport. But he's also, like I said, he's just super funny. He like pokes fun and almost makes fun of a lot of touring anglers, but not in a disrespectful or bad-mouthing way. He's very, respectful and looks up to literally everybody that's made a living in the sport. But you'll see. The more he's on, the more you'll get to know him, and he's a good dude and he's very entertaining. So definitely have him on. I wish him nothing but the best moving forward in this invitational deal. He is now off limits, so I can't even talk to him because I don't want to slip up and accidentally tell him something about Lake Okeechobee. So I've been talking to him really since he left my house that day. So good luck to Matt. Definitely check out his channel. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like we plugged Todd Castledine's channel in this, and he was nice enough to reach out and comment and stuff. It's very kind of getting into that, just like the world of bass fishing and things. It's like since that episode dropped, or since that last podcast we did dropped, I've been doing like a lot of research and just looking into a lot of individuals that are posting either on social media or posting YouTube videos on bass fishing. And I've got so many like mixed feelings about the sport and the people that partake in it, and how many people are negative and how many people are positive for some things but don't look in the big picture. It's really a weird deal, and I'm trying to explain like how I want to go into this. It's like I've always said bass fishermen, and I am one, right? But bass fishermen have a huge ego problem, and I really can't point it out. And I always tell all the saltwater guys and all my buddies when I do, or if I do any seminars or anything, like at the end of the day, we spend hundreds upon thousands of dollars a year to all this tackle and all this gear to fish for a fish that doesn't fight on the end of the line. Doesn't. I don't care what you guys say. I mean, when it comes down to it, a bass is not a bluefin tuna. It's not a 40-pound kingfish. It's not a snook. It's not a tarpon. It's a bass, right? So I always say, like, bass fishermen, I feel like have to have the big ego and the, and puff their chest out just to make themselves feel better. And there's not a fish I love catching more on this planet than a largemouth bass. I just want to say that, but it's just so strange. And like, I've been going back and like watching certain videos and the way people talk about certain people or certain anglers or even certain techniques. And it's really strange. So like we plugged Todd Castledine's channel because he's just an OG like grassroots fisherman. Like we said, I mean, the guy he's one of the biggest names in the sport, yet he doesn't, and I could be butchering this, but I don't think he fishes the elites. I believe he's qualified a bunch, but he just chooses like not to fish them. He's fishing a lot of like local stuff, fishing the Toyotas, he fishes the Opens, and he kicks ass at it. And he's just a real simplistic, like he's just got it. He's just a fishy dude. And there's a lot of people out there like that. And then there's other people that are kind of like coming up in the ranks. And it's funny, there's some awesome guys out there that are just killing it. And it's weird how one angler could be killing it and doing great, and he gets nothing but like positive feedback and just trying to think of like I said, positive feedback and a lot of people backing him and encouragement. And then there's some people that are just coming up and doing things their own way, and they get slammed for it. And before I go further, I also want to point out, I have a video on my channel, and it was kind of my first like somewhat on my scale of popular, right? I have almost 3,000 subscribers. That's really nothing on my channel. And but I remember this was the first one that I started getting a lot of feedback on, a lot of people commenting. And it was me talking about who to pay attention to on YouTube and in bass fishing. And everyone kind of jumped on me saying, in a positive way, backing me, saying, yeah, the hell with the Guggen squad, the hell with this. And I'm going to be honest, who I was talking about in that video was not the Guggen squad. It was another thing of YouTubers. But what it came down to, I was never bashing those people. Like, I was never bashing, we're just going to use the name Guggen squad, right? Because they're very popular and everyone knows them. I wasn't bashing them in what they do. What I was saying to the younger anglers, to pay attention to who they pay attention to, was if you're looking to succeed in this sport on a tournament level, if you want to climb the ranks, you want to fish the Bass Opens and try to qualify for the Elite Series one day, you want to fish the BFLs, fish the toy, and just gradually in tournament fish and compete, don't look to someone like the quote unquote Guggen squad for tournament help, because they're not tournament fishermen. That's not what they do. They're very entertaining, and they've paved their own way. They've done things their own way, and they didn't set out originally to be what they are. They just loved fishing. They picked up a rod and reel, and they picked up a camera and kind of started their own way, and it turned into this giant thing, and they've had great success doing it their way, which I completely support. But if you're looking to jump in and try to climb the ranks to be a professional tournament angler, they're not going to show you how to adjust or how to make adjustments on the fly and changing conditions when fishing for money against 180 or 200 other boats. Whereas someone like a Todd Castledine, Scott Martin was the first one out there to really vlog the Elite Series, vlog his practice, you know what I mean? And the whole process through it, show you little tricks and techniques. Trying to think who else does a good job. Really, all the pros started doing it now. Brandon Polinek has one of the best channels out there. And just to kind of teach you and also just show you what really happens out there. And that's what I was talking about. But either way, I'm not bad-mouthing anyone. Everyone has their own lane. Everyone has their own style of fishing. And, that's what's cool. And that's the thing. Like, there's guys that I don't like to watch, but I don't badmouth them, or I don't dislike that angler because it doesn't fit my style. I think we were talking about Greg Hackney last time. If I could only watch one person fish for the rest of my life, it's Greg Hackney. Reason being, I've looked up to the guy since I was 10, right? But he's a flipper. He's a big fish guy. He's a big line guy. It's my style. But that doesn't mean that I think, I don't know, those like Cody Meyer or something, a finesse, what I consider a finesse fisherman. I don't dislike him or not like what he's doing. It's just, he doesn't fit my style, but that doesn't make the way he fishes stupid. It doesn't make what he does dumb or unentertaining. There's other people that might fish that way, that follow what he's doing more closely, just like they don't like watching Greg Hackney, because where you fish, you might not have grass. You might have crystal clear water. You might have stuff like that where you don't like, his style doesn't relate. And that's kind of what it is for me. And a big thing I got into here, just kind of researching, was, the whole live scope, forward facing sonar debate. And I think I might have done a video on this, but it's now that we're coming into tournament season again, there's a lot of chitter chatter about the forward facing sonar deal right now and how it's ruining bass fishing and how it's just cheating and stupid. And not that it's any of my business, but I'm going to kind of give you guys my 2 cents on this. Keep in mind, this is coming from my mouth, a guy who makes his living on the water every day and does not have a transducer nor a screen on his boat. I don't have one. I have a hand control trolling motor. I am not tech savvy. I have not adopted the new technology, so keep that in mind. Um, but everybody out there who's bashing this forward-facing sonar, it's a joke to me, and it's kind of comical to watch because here's the deal. And you people, I'm going to get a lot of slack for this, but I'm going to say 80% of the people saying that can't afford the technology. They can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't. That doesn't mean that I think it's stupid. That doesn't mean that I think it's cheating. That doesn't mean that I think it has no skill, because it does. And I've fished with a lot of anglers in their boats on this lake, on Lake Okeechobee, that are from up north, that are from places where this is an up and coming thing and it's the future of fishing, whether you want to believe it or not. And it's a main tool in what they do, who have taught me, who have showed me, who have took me out and fished with this technology. And I feel like a lot of people think you point it at them, you see the fish, you throw the swim jig at them, and you catch it. There is so much that goes into this to do it right. Now, you can get lucky and do what I just, kind of gave an example of. You can point it, see a dot, throw at it, and catch the fish. But very rarely does that happen. So many people are adopting this technology now, and everyone has it, that these fish are getting pressured with it. And I am by no means do I know what I'm doing with it, but it's not that easy. And I'm very into people like picking up a new thing and starting with it. So the people that are saying that the forward facing technology is cheating and stupid, like I said, they either can't afford it, so they're just going to say it's cheating to make themselves feel better that they don't have it. But it's like, I remember when braid came out, and there were guys when I was very little, guys saying braid is unfair. You can't fish braided line for largemouth bass. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. It's unfair to the fish. Everyone watching this video has braid on some of their rods right now. I remember when power poles came out. I remember there were people saying, that's cool, but that's not even, that's just cheating. You don't need that. Most of you watching this probably have a power pole and or want one. Spot lock. It's just forward facing sonar is just the next thing. And I got news for you. In 5 years, that's going to be old news and stupid. I mean, there's going to be something even better. But like I've been seeing so many people post about, like Randy Blockett made a video about it, how it's cheating and dumb. And listen, I'm a fisherman like Randy is. Randy likes to flip and fish shallow and beat the bank and go off. That's what I do. But to tell that's our style of fishing. But to tell somebody that their style is cheating and a joke and going to ruin the sport is stupid. And one of the guys I came across was this Josh Jones guy. Most of you know him. He's got an orange beanie. He caught 62 pounds this year. He's caught like multiple 40-pound bags out of Oklahoma, out of Texas. He's like the next big thing, fishes for 6 cents. And the amount of people that hate that guy, like I've been doing my research on this for the last 3 days, and it's like enthralled me how it pisses me off that people in our sport that we're supposed to all be bass fishermen and give each other positive feedback and things. Now, if someone's cheating or doing a Mike Long deal or something, yeah, that sucks. But this guy's not even a tournament fisherman. He's a fun fisherman. He now guides. He's caught 61 pounds. And listening to him, I listened to him on Chris Zaldane's podcast the other day. He was like one of the earliest adopters in the forward-facing sonar world. And if you guys haven't listened to that podcast, I would highly recommend it because it's crazy to listen to. And do I know the guy? No, I don't know him personally at all. I've never met him. I've never seen him. But I feel like I have a pretty good idea of how to read people and kind of judge what kind of person a certain person is by listening to him. The guy's not full of it. He's not lying. He's humble. He's not egotistical. He's not cocky. Hell, didn't even bass fish until like 6 years ago. He was a crappie guy who adopted this forward-facing sonar and took it bass fishing, and now he's, whether you want to say it or not, he's one of the biggest names in the sport, and he's just a guide. He's just a fun fisherman, and films. And there are so many people that just think this guy is, first of all, they think he's forward sonaring and snagging these bass. So first they thought he was live baiting. So then he started kind of doing videos to show that he wasn't live baiting. Then they started saying he was snagging the fish with Alabama rigs, to the point where the guy just started GoProing out his boat to show, like, no, like, I don't care. He doesn't want the clout. He doesn't want the attention, but I'm not snagging him. Puts a video out of him catching 61.5 pounds on a weed guardless, trailerless swim jig. You see the bite. I mean, you see the line jump. You see him, it's cast to catch. And people still don't want to believe what he's doing. And then there's people that believe what he's doing, but call it high fence fishing. They say that it's a joke. And like I said, for me, being on boats with people, showing you how to do it, and just listening to him, it's an art. There's an art to everything. And so you always have something, when someone's doing something well, you're always either going to have people that aren't for the technique or the way he's doing it, or they just don't want to believe it. I remember, and this is something that I very rarely take credit for anything, but down by me, where I used to live, I was one of the first guys. I shouldn't say the first guys. There was a lot of old timers before me, but I was one of the first people in the younger generation down in Boca Raton, Deerfield, Pompano, Fort Lauderdale, to throw flare hawk jigs for snook like this. And I started doing it up in Fort Pierce with a buddy of mine. It worked very well, had a few good nights doing it, and said, I'm going to try and learn it down in, by my house. And I think I fished 36 nights in a row and never had a bite on this. Just didn't do it. And it was starting to be like, man, like, but again, I was learning. I didn't know the tides. I didn't know, what bridges set up for what tides, where and when and how and what casts. And it's a lot of math and coordination involved in throwing a big jig like this in the current at night, knowing where these fish sit on what tide, how they sit. Are they facing it? Do they ride with their backs up? Are they down? Some places there's an underwater cable the fish will sit behind to break the current. There's a lot of things I had to figure out, and I had to do it all on my own. Again, I'm doing this from land. I had no boat, no depth finder. I had to literally paint a picture of the bottom by losing jigs. Drift, get stuck, break off. There's a rock there, and then just literally paint it with my mind. And fished, like I said, 36 nights, never had a bite. And then the next night I went, I caught 9 fish on one bridge. My feet never left where I was sitting. And they were all big ones. And then, this was just in the time of Facebook. There was no Instagram. I wasn't on YouTube, or I wasn't filming any of this. It was all at night. And I started posting pictures of catching these snook, and I had them either just me holding them or just laid out on the seawall or the bank or whatever it was with the jig in their mouth. And I remember, like, there were so many of my Facebook friends or people chitter-chattering around the pier scenes and stuff that I'm not really catching them on a jig. I'm catching them on a mullet and then putting the jig in their mouth. And then I remember, like, because I don't care, and I didn't let it get to me, but then I remember a couple months later, I was walking across a bridge. And for any of you that want to know, it was Palmetto Park Bridge in Boca Raton. And I remember a truck slowed down, and there were 3 guys in it with big bridge rods going snook fishing. And all I had was a spinning rod and a chartreuse bluetail jig on it, going to fish the north side of the bridge. Remember them, they stopped and they pointed and were talking in the truck, and I didn't know what they meant or what was going on. And they parked. And I'm not going to say who the people were, but they came walking out on the bridge. And I'll never forget, they left the truck running in the little parking lot, left the rods in it, and they said, "What are you doing?" They're trying to get bit. So you really are catching them on that? Because I had nothing else. I didn't have a live well. I didn't have anything. I had a bridge net. I had a pocket with a leader spool in it, and 4 jigs and a spinning rod. And I said, yeah. And it was 3 casts later, I caught a 38-inch fish, and they watched it. And they were one of the people saying that I was catching them. And they blew their mind. And it was funny, after that, slowly but surely, people started doing it. And there were other guys doing it long before me. I am not taking credit that I was one of the first to ever do it. I wasn't. This is a technique that's been around since God was a boy. But in the younger generation, I was one of the first people to do it in my area. And now, any of you guys that snook fish, you know, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, every bridge you go to anymore, there's people throwing them that, throwing swim baits, throwing plugs. The artificial snook scene really became a very trendy thing to do. But my point is, people will just tell you like, oh, there's foul play involved. And I've seen it with that. I've seen it in the bass world, out at Everglades Holiday Park. Okay, it's a canal system down in South Florida, connects to the Everglades, at kind of the headwaters to the Everglades. Used to fish a lot of bass tournaments out there. Most of you that are watching this probably fished against me or know what I'm talking about. There's a gentleman out there by the name of Steve Purcell. Been taking people's money since as long as I can remember. Doesn't lose a tournament out there, but he lives out there. He's dialed. He's in it. And I remember as a kid, like, just the rumors flying that this guy is cheating. He's cheating. He's caging fish. He's snagging them. I heard it all. Like, this guy, no, he's a joke. Like, it's not even worth fishing out there. He's going to beat you, but he's cheating. And I never thought he was cheating just because he was a nice guy. And then I remember one day, me and my brother were fishing a bank, and he pulled up with his partner, Rod, and he said, you guys got him. And we only had 2 fish in the live well. We said, no, it sucks. He said, well, you're on the best bank. You're on the juice. And we said, well, we're not doing something right. And he asked us, do you mind if I fish behind you? And we're in a canal. A canal, you can cast a lure across and hit the other side. And we said, no, go ahead. Behind our boat in 30 minutes, we and my brother watched them catch 31.5 pounds on a spook and a half-ounce flipping jig. The same 2 baits we were using. What it came down to was he was doing the little things right. He knew where to put that jig. And looking at it now, I know what he was doing, and I know what we weren't doing at the time because I've grown as an angler and I've watched it. But I physically watched him put 31 pounds in the boat. And it was to the point, and a lot of you watching know this, Steve Purcell, there were so many people, A, following him to try and find out where he was fishing, and B, catch him cheating, that he'd only fish 45 minutes out of the 8-hour day. Like, when he took off, he was running 20 miles the wrong way, fish. He'd run, I mean, he was just doing laps trying to confuse people. And where he wanted to fish just happened to be where me and my brother were, and he did his damage and he left. And he won the tournament. And everyone said, I said, no. I tell a story all the time. I watched him. 2 of the fish came on a white bone spook. Rod caught him on a spinning rod, and he caught him flipping a jig. And to this day, people still say he cheats. I'm like, I can't say he cheats because, one, I consider him a buddy, and he's a kind of a mentor of mine. I look up to the dude. He's just an awesome, awesome fisherman. But how can I say someone cheats when he pulls up behind me, asks the fish behind me, and catches the winning fish in the tournament, and I watch him, and I hear them come up off the ledge and eat the spook. So it's just like crazy to me that this, like I said, the Josh Jones guy is getting all this heat, and that there's all these people that just hate this forward-facing sonar technology. Now, one thing Josh says in the video is, like, they ask him, like, do you think it's going to ruin the sport of bass fishing? And he said, for the viewer, yes. He said, I love doing it, but I cannot stand watching someone do it because these guys are just have their heads down throwing. And I get that, and he get that, and everyone gets that. But when it comes down to it, the guy on that boat fishing for that 100,000, he's doing his job. He's going to do whatever he needs to do to catch those fish. And if it's with forward-facing sonar, if that's what he's good at, that's his ballpark, he's going to do it, whether the people want to watch it or not. I mean, if you had $100,000 on the line, but the viewers at home were complaining that you were throwing a Ned rig, but you're catching 25 pounds a day on a Ned rig, are you going to switch to a buzz bait so they get to see top water? No, it's not what you're going to do. You're in there to do one job. And so that's, it's just weird. I hear all these people, they come on my boat where I talk about this new technology is going to ruin it. Who are we to say that? Especially someone here, like, we don't use it because we fish the grass, we fish the swamp. But we wouldn't be saying that if we lived on Lake Lanier, or it's just the next thing. And there's going to be way better and more improvements in the sport to technology that are going to come after this. Side scan. Everyone's used, I mean, there remember guys saying, "Oh, that's cheating." You could see that sunken truck. You can make out. You can read the decals on the side. This is just the next thing. And for everyone that's out there saying that it's a joke and stupid, um, I don't know. I feel like you're just hating, and I feel like it's. And again, this is coming from someone who does not own a unit. It's not what I do. If someone said, "Here, Cody, here's a ticket to the Bassmaster Elite Series, go fish," I wouldn't change what I do. Yeah, I'd probably put a unit on my boat because I'd be lost. I wouldn't know the lakes, and I'd want to read water depth and temperature and things. But that live scope, like I said, or that forward-facing sonar is not something you just put on your boat and now you're catching 30 pounds. These guys have mastered that art. Just like, I guarantee you, and this is not a knock on him, but that Josh Jones guy, I guarantee you if I took him out here to Lake Okeechobee, I'd fish him inside out, flipping reeds. Just like he would fish me inside out, throwing, because he's mastered that art and that technique. That's his niche, that's his deal, and that's what he likes to do. So all these people saying that he's cheating or snagging these fish, and what's crazy is that a guy like him who has nothing to prove. I mean, his story was crazy to listen to. Like, he was a cable guy. He ran into one of his customers, a guy who worked for Garmin, gave him his first unit. He was in a John boat fishing for crappie. And then the next time he went to him, he gave him a prototype of forward-facing sonar. The guy didn't even have a name for it. He says, "It's a prototype, go play with it." And that's how that guy started playing with it. And he was playing with it for crappie. So he picked up this technology early, was one of the first people to have it in his hand, and like mastered his craft, and then became this name. So he has nothing to prove. He's just when it comes down to it, he was a nobody who got really good. And people are just like, they say he's cheating. They say he's snagging all these fish. So he puts GoPros on his boat to film how he's doing it, and it's not good enough. And people are sabotaging him, getting him removed from sponsorships. And then he was winning so much on a crappie trail that they kicked him out of the crappie trail. And the same thing I remember happened to Steve Purcell, Holiday Park. He was winning everything. Club guys went to the tournament director, said, "You need to kick him out of the trail." They had nothing. They had no reason to even believe that he was cheating, because he was beating people by 10 pounds. So with him he still fished, but people would pull his plug out of his boat, rip his fenders off his boat trailer. And that's like the most infuriating, most immature thing, that there are people in the bass world that say they love this sport, and they don't love it though. They love they think they're better than they are, and they can't stand to lose. And I feel like they're all over the country. They're out here on Lake Okeechobee. I remember, like, when Jared McMillan was fishing tournaments at 15, he was winning and beating 40 and 50-year-old guys so bad that they would protest and say it's not legal for him to be fishing against us because he's a minor. He's under 18, and got him kicked out of tournaments. I don't know. That kind of shit just drives me up a wall. And all these same people that do that are the people that say we need more youth in the sport. We need this, we need that, until they start beating you or getting their money taken, and they start getting knocked on their ass a little bit. Then they got to complain and change rules. Another story. This is a true story too. This goes back to saltwater fishing on the pier. Me and my buddies, and it wasn't even me doing it. It was actually my best friend, Logan, started doing a rig essentially it was called a double rod trolley rig. And what it was, if I can explain it to you guys real quick, you would take a rod with legit a small 1 pound grappling hook anchor on it that weighed like a pound, and you throw it out as far as you can. With the rods we're using, you could launch it 100 yards. Get it stuck in the sand, put it in the rod holder of the pier, and crank it tight. So you got the rod completely doubled over and the line's like a tar string tight. You'd have another rod with a leader and this and that, and we would make a clip, like a kite clip, and clip it to that line and slide the bait down. Okay. And you could keep the bait wherever you wanted on the line. So we would hang it so that that bait fish was hanging right on the surface, going back and forth like this. And the reason we would do the double rod is because we could fish bigger baits, big 1 and 2 pound Spanish mackerel for these big kingfish. We would do this to the point where like we would take turns. It'd be me, Logan, Jameson, Connor, one of my best friends. And we just go out there and double rod for the day. We would just take turns. Logan, you want this bait? Put it out, and then you let it swing. When the fish would hit it, it would pop that kite clip, and now you're fighting the fish on a flat single line. And we did this for 2 years, and it wasn't anything we invented. This is a very, very popular technique in the Carolinas on the piers. It's the only way they fish. They call it pin rigging. So we brought it down here, and it was unfair because you could fish a big bait on top naturally, and the fish could not see your leader, right? And it was hanging out on top. We were catching these giant kings. We caught a lot of big cobias, sailfish. We were catching all kinds of stuff on it. And there was a guy out there. He actually fishes Lake Okeechobee now, and he probably watches my stuff, but I don't care. His name was Ben. And this is a sore loser story. He would literally come out there and be fishing all day. We would get out of high school, and we would drive to the pier. We would get there at 4 o'clock. Gets dark at 6. We would literally bring 2 rods for the double rod trolley, and we'd bring each a spinning reel to try and catch a mackerel or blue runner to put out on it. We'd be there for 30 minutes, catch a bait, put it out. It wasn't 5 minutes. Boom, we'd hook a 30-pound king, fight it, reel it in, gaff it, and it was just a good afternoon. And this guy would get so pissed that he legitimately, still to this day, you can go to Deerfield Pier and look. He ran for city commissioner. He rigged the election in a way, right? Won, and the first day he won, they swore him in. He left town center or city hall, drove straight to Deerfield Pier, and made it a city ordinance. There is no double rod trolleying on Deerfield Pier, and their sign is still there. It's its own separate rule because all the other rules on the pier had been there for 100 years. And to this day, we still cannot legally do it. Do we sometimes do it? Yeah, but you can't legally do it. And if he comes out there, he kicks you off. So stuff like that, I just cannot, instead of this guy, there is nothing stopping him from learning how to do this rig and doing it for himself, along with everyone else. But instead of just taking the time to sit and learn something new and just take it, admit to yourself that you don't know everything and that you can embrace a new technique and learn it and become a better angler, he just decided to say, no, the hell with that, and just cut it off. Same thing goes for like the forward-facing sonar thing, or just all the new technology. Like, just because you can't, there's guys beating you now, and you can't just go out there and throw a 10-inch red shad culprit worm with a lead weight and a true turn hook on 20-pound big game, doesn't mean you have to complain and get people kicked out and complain about the sport. I don't know. That's my rant on all that. Again, that's coming from a guy who literally doesn't have a unit on his boat. But I would never fish against him or fish against somebody like Patrick Walters, right? Who's kind of the first guy to win using forward-facing sonar when he caught him on that jerkbait at Lake Fork, suspended on that timber. These guys are the best in the world. They have the technology at their fingertips. They can get it, okay? The fact that this gentleman bought it and moved forward with it and learned it, knowing it was the future, and took advantage of it and won a tournament on it, I could never imagine me being there saying, yeah, he beat me, but he had that technology. When it's available to me too. It's available to all of us. Is it expensive? Yeah. But don't ever bash something because it's not your style or because you can't afford it. I can't afford it, but I'm never going to bash it and say it's boring, because it is some of the coolest stuff. And the coolest thing for me is when I'm with customers, this is what I explained to a lot of my other customers when I take them on my boat, is they'll show me this stuff. These are guys that come out here and they want to learn how to punch mats, or they want to flip a jig, or they want to learn how to snatch a chatterbait out of hydrilla. So I take them to the one clump of hydrilla we got left on the lake. They want to learn how to throw a poppin' frog. But these are master smallmouth fishermen, or masters at catching largemouth out deep that have this technology. So like, we'll go learn it, but then they want to go show me what they do. The amount of fish on this lake, it does work in the grass. We all use the excuse, yeah, well, we're in the grass. It does work. They've got it fine tuned enough now. A lot of these guys that it will work in the hydrilla, in the needle grass, under the reed heads, under the mats. You can shine it under those mats and see what's under there. The amount of fish that come up and look at your bait, whether it's a swim jig, a frog, a spook, a big easy, and don't commit, would blow your mind. It literally made me rethink over the past couple months how I fish this lake. If you're in an area that has fish, like Tin House Cove, when it's going off and it's a big area, if you make 15 casts, 10 of those casts, you got a fish follow it. They're pressured. They've seen it. They track the bait a lot. And the other crazy thing is when you're flipping those mats and you catch a good one under a mat, when you're shining it under there, a lot of times there's 5 or 6 more with them, but you just got that one to eat. It's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of things you can learn from it, whether you want to buy it or not, or whether you want to use it for its true purpose. Just don't blackball it. I mean, it can teach you a lot. So I always thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. I was listening to that another podcast, the Zaldine podcast, also with Matt Herron on it, and that guy, he's always been one of my guys too, because he's just like the grumpy old man. I call him an old man. He's not old, but just the grumpy guy. They all call him Grumpy, but he's like the real deal. First of all, he's a flipper, right? So he's one of my guys too. Loves flipping a jig. He catches them on Okeechobee. When he fished FLW, he always did good. But he tells it how it is. And that was another podcast that was very interesting. He's a veteran in the sport, been doing it a long time. And he doesn't sugarcoat nothing. And there's a lot of people that don't like him for that. But I like those guys. I like those guys that tell it how it is. That's why I'm such a big fan of Mike Krause at headquarters. There's people that cannot stand Mike Krause. I don't know how. He's the nicest guy ever. But when it comes down to it, if you ask him this, a lot of times they don't like him because he gave you the right answer. He told you, no, like this isn't going to work. And they don't want to hear it. And that's kind of the way that Matt Herron was. They were asking him questions about the sport, the future of the sport. And he's a guy who loves the sport of bass fishing and doesn't put his opinions first. He puts what's best for the sport of bass fishing first, and his decisions with rules and things. It's really interesting to listen to. And I feel like more people need to do that. I mean, the way the technology, yes, is it boring? Does it fit your style? Maybe not. But you can't badmouth it. You can't bad talk it. It's getting more people into fishing. Is it making fishing harder? Yeah. But like Josh said, perfect example, they said, oh, well, you go out there and you pin these fish and you ping these fish and they, you catch them and there's no safe zone for them anymore. They're going to adapt. Those fish are eventually, where you'd catch every fish that you pinged on the forward-facing sonar, eventually you're going to catch 1 out of 10. It's the same thing under these mats. When punching mats on Lake Okeechobee first was a thing, I wasn't around, but you talk to all the guys that were doing it, and I mean, Brandon McMillan made his name doing it. That was what he was known for and still known for to this day. It was unreal. If you weren't doing it in the wintertime, you were not winning. You were not getting a top 10. It was what you did. It was the fish that were untouched. They weren't pressured. You were catching big ones and numbers. It was the deal. You can ask Brandon. We've talked about it. I've talked about it with a lot of the guys. I truly do not think you can win, especially a multi-day tournament. I don't believe you can win. Well, I shouldn't say that. Christian Greico won one, and so did Matt, 2-day ABA. I'll say this. It is very difficult to win a tournament strictly on punching fish anymore. Because I really think they've adapted and they adjusted and they know they get pressured onto those mats. And B, they're just more educated. They might live under there, but they've seen that 1.5 ounce and that craw fall in their face. They know when that boat's getting close to them. It's very difficult. It's just not even a thing anymore. Do I love doing it? Absolutely. I love it. But I look at it more as if we need one good fish. We're one good fish away. Or I have a strip where we can go through and maybe get a bite. I'm not looking to catch 30 pounds punching because I just don't feel like you could really do it anymore. You might be able to catch 1.7 or 1.5, which is a crucial fish, but it's just not really the deal. When back in the day, that was the deal, but things change, and the fish adjust and adapt, and they set up different. So that's what's going to happen with this forward facing sonar also. But besides that, that was my rant on people. Don't be a hater. I just don't do it. I mean, there's people that I don't know, like maybe I'm not. There's people that I'm not fans of as anglers because they don't fit my style, like I already said. But I don't badmouth them. I don't say they're dumb or they can't fish or anything. Sometimes I maybe poke fun at some professionals that they're going to get their ass kicked when they come to Okeechobee because you can't Ned rig or something. But it's all in fun, because when the Florida guys go to their realm, we get our, it's all relative. It's just different styles. People grow up in different fisheries doing different things. And, I mean, it all has its time and place, and it's all difficult. None of it's easy. None of it's easy. That word gets pushed around a lot from people that haven't attempted to try that particular technique or pattern. Bass fishing's not easy in general. I don't care what technique, whether it's throwing a Senko. There's people that have perfected and mastered the art of throwing a Senko. As much as all of us think you just throw it out there, you can just throw it out there and let it wiggle to the bottom and catch them. There's other people that have just really dialed in that technique. The frog. There's guys out here that make a living out here throwing a dang frog, flipping a jig, throwing a spook. That's a big one out here. There's guys that have mastered a big walking bait like that out here. It's not easy. Do I catch them on a spook? Yeah. Do I consider myself a master at it? No. And that goes, across the board with everything. So yeah, don't be negative to people. Check out Josh Jones. He gained a huge fan in me, just the way he handled himself. Like, I like when the underdog prevails and comes out. I mean, this guy's, it's crazy. The fish he's catching, I've watched his videos. 61 pounds, looking at him, calling his shots to the point. And he explains in the podcast, how he's mastered that he could tell what kind of fish it is and what it's doing. And he talks about, what bass are doing on the scope when he's not, when he hasn't hooked them, just how they behave. Talks about them coming up from 55 feet of water. Most people don't even think a bass will go down to 55 feet. It's technology that can help you learn a lot. So check him out. And check out, that Chris Zaldane podcast is pretty good. About Lake Okeechobee, it's fishing very tough right now. It is. It's we only caught a few fish today. And here's the deal. Today, we had ideal conditions. My customers actually asked me on the water, if you could paint your perfect Lake Okeechobee day, what would it be? And today was it. And I told them that. We were on a warming trend coming off of a pretty severe front. Water steadily climbing in temperature. Water's cleaning, right? We had stable weather, no wind for the last few days. All the water's getting clean. Plenty of bait around in most of the areas. We had, the lakes looking good as far as the bottom. A lot of the spawning areas have good clean bottom on them. So fish should start setting up on the bed. We're on the backside of the moon. We weren't on that full moon deal. Warming trend. We're actually pre-front also. We have a cold front coming tomorrow afternoon. It's awesome. It was in the high 70s today. It's just ideal. We caught 5 fish, I think, if that. Had 6 or 7 bites, something like that. It was tough. The biggest thing right now is the lake is getting hammered by people. We had that 200 boat high school event last weekend. They all went home. We had the invitational guys here when Matt was doing the podcast. That was his last day of practice for all of them. I don't know how many boats are in that, but I guarantee you it's over 150. We've got a BFL here Saturday. I was going to jump in it, but the weather's going to be horrible. Wouldn't surprise me if they cancel it. So I'm going to stay here, and me and Breezy are going to get stuff done around the house. So a lot of the BFL guys are here. The elites are here pre-practicing before they go off limits. All of them running around today. Plus all the snowbirds, plus all the guide boats, plus just all the locals recreational fishing. The lake's pounded. I mean, every place where you think you should have fish, there's legitimately 40 to 50 boats there. So that's making it difficult. That's what I don't like to make excuses, but that's what I really think it is. These fish are just getting, God, man, it's crazy. They're getting pounded. And, all these, again, going back to technology, YouTube, right, is a huge tool, and it's a fishing tool. Uh, I've had a lot of Elite Series guys and pros reach out to me telling me that they watch my stuff in preparation to come here. It's a really cool feeling. But these guys watch enough videos, and not just mine, they do enough research. I was telling my customers, these pros are in the juice. In the juice. Like they're not in the general area that has fish. They are on the juice. They are on the spot within the spot. And they're just drove here 5 states over. But they just do the research. They know the history. They know where to be. So all the places where how are holding fish are just getting pounded. And you'll see a random guy catch one here and there. And I guarantee you the fish are there. I guarantee you a lot of these Elite Series pros that have the forward-facing sonar are seeing them. I guarantee you, but they're just really shut down. So presentation has been very key. Making the right flip, the quiet flip, the accurate flip, making the right cast with that swim jig, working that chatterbait just right. That's been key for me in getting some bites. I've been messing around with my retrieve, with my swim jig the past few days. I feel like I've kind of figured a little deal out. I'm getting some more bites. Be very detail oriented and not using the same lures, using the same baits. The presentation has been a huge thing lately. Catching some big fish. We caught a 9-1 yesterday on shiners, but it was super awesome fish. Like we ended up throwing a shiner off. I believe it happened. Right, we threw the shiner out. It got hung. Tried to yank it out of the mat. The shiner came off and fell off. Like kind of went in the air, came off the hook, and bloop, and then fish starts blowing it up. And I'm like, that's 100% a bass. That's not a catfish. Hook it on. My customer lays the shiner in there. Bloop, 9-1. And we lost a couple bigger ones. Or not bigger, I shouldn't say that. We lost a couple more big ones. It looked to be about 6 or 7 pounds. So there's big fish around. Obviously, live bait. Even the live bait is not a walk in the park. It's difficult. There's certain little things us guys are doing with our shiners and our rigs to get more bites, and it's definitely paying off. But it's a struggle out there just because of the boat pressure. That's really what I think it is. But we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping it shows out for these big tournaments. The lake's been getting a bad rap the past few years. The BFL not going to get a good rap or a good showing if they fish, if the wind doesn't blow them out, because it's going to be miserable. I'm fishing a club tournament on Sunday, possibly with Breezy, if she wants to. It's going to be tough. It's going to be miserable. I might have already said this in the video. I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but it's going to be in the low 30s in the morning. I only get up to like 60-something, but I'm fishing it. It's going to be a struggle. I think it's going to be a very low-weight tournament, but you need a reality check every once in a while. I want to go out there and try to grind and catch some fish. I'm going to guess 16 pounds wins Sunday. That's very low, but that's what I'm going to guess. But on this lake, you never know. So I might come in with 25, but I'm going to say 16 pounds. So that'll probably be the next video you guys see from me. Will be me out there freezing and just show you guys how I adjust and adapt to a post-front tournament day on the lake. Probably going to be I don't know. Not even going to mention what I'm thinking of what I'm going to do. You guys will see in the video. As far as like, well, if we got time before the elites and stuff are here, I'm going to wait to tell you guys who I pick before the tournament, because it depends on who it sets up for in this event. But I'm looking forward to that. I got asked to be a camera boat for a couple elite guys. Unfortunately, I'm working. That'd be super cool. It just means a lot to me that like there are guys that I look up to that are watching my stuff. And I get it. They're watching it not because they hear I'm an awesome guy or I'm a great fisherman and looking at it. They're looking at it because they're coming to Lake Okeechobee. They're coming to my lake, and my videos are the first thing that pop up. But just had a few guys reach out and say, I've been watching your stuff. Like, awesome work. It's pretty cool. It's a cool feeling. So I appreciate everyone watching. And yeah, my next video will be me fishing the lake. So sorry for my rant. Hope I didn't offend anybody with the forward-facing sonar rant, but that's just been bugging me today. I was listening to that podcast driving home from the lake. I'm like, this is crazy. But yeah, that's about it. So I appreciate you guys watching. Um, just felt like sitting down and talking to you guys to post something. Next post will be on, well, tournament Sunday. Whenever I get around to editing it, or if there's anything to edit, I might go out there in zero. Um, I'll get that uploaded, and then yeah, I'll book. If you guys are looking to book a date, look on my Facebook probably tomorrow. I'm going to go through and post what available dates I have left between like now and April, and I can get you guys in the book. And until the next one, I believe that's it. So I'll see you guys in the next episode of either the podcast or the just a standard fishing video. And there was something else though. I was about to tell you guys something else, but I can't remember. So I'm going to go to bed. I got to be on the north end in the morning early. So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take it easy.